What's going on, guys? Today we are at Hybrid Performance Method in Miami, Florida with Dr. Stefi Cohen. Today we have an exciting video. We're talking about Stefi's favorite hamstring exercises to build dynamic, powerful legs. Without taking up any more of your time, let's dive into the video. A quick note before we dive into the hamstring exercises, this video was financially supported by Go Strong Equipment.
Before we dive into the exercises that I want to show you, I want to take some time to briefly introduce you to the hamstring group and talk to you about its anatomy, its function, and its action. The hamstrings are arguably the most important muscle group of the legs as far as function and strength goes. They are the main driver of your squat and your deadlift, since they are the most powerful and primary hip extensor muscle that you have. Your hamstrings are further divided into three kind of separate components. The most lateral portion is your biceps femoris, then you have your semitendinosus, and then the most medially, you have your semimembranosus. So all of those three compartments of the hamstring muscle group all originate at the same point. This is the ischial tuberosity, right at your sitting hip bone, and then they attach below the knee. And what this means is that they're gonna have a biarticular function or action, and this is one, to extend the hips, and two, to flex the knees. So when I think about hamstring exercises, I further divide them into three different categories of exercises, and that's what we're gonna be discussing today. Now let's talk about the three categories or three buckets that I use to organize my thinking and organize my exercise selection as far as the hamstring goes. The first one is training the hamstrings with your hips fixed as knee flexors. The second one is training them with your knees fixed as hip extensors. And the third one is to train them as both hip extensors and knee flexors simultaneously. So let's head over to check out the exercises from the very first category. So the first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna take Jake through the first batch of exercises from our first bucket category, which is keeping the hips fixed and training the knee flexors. Now, one particular thing that's important to mention when you're selecting your exercises for your hamstrings is consider resistance profiles, and this basically means which area of the hamstring are you actually training. So when we're in this position, we're mostly worried or concerned about training the hamstrings at the fully lengthened position, which is the position at which the hamstrings are the most vulnerable. So a few pointers for this exercise are keeping the hips in a posterior pelvic tilt, drawing the belly button in to avoid movement compensations. So you're gonna cue the person to draw your belly button in, keep pushing against the pad. And what I wanna see is fast on the way up, or relatively fast, a hold at the top for 1 or 2 seconds, and then slow on the way down and hold it 1 or 2 seconds there, and then back up. People tend to do this exercise in particularly pretty mindlessly, and they just kind of go through the motions and do it really fast. But you wanna make sure that you're challenging yourselves at the point that's important for this movement, so at the lengthened position and then at the top, to further maximize the gains that you can get from this exercise. The second exercise is from the same bucket or category. We're still gonna keep our hips fixed. The difference is that now the hips are not going to be externally stabilized. He's gonna have to control the hips in one position, and then we're still gonna be training the hamstrings as knee flexors. However, there's gonna be an even greater emphasis on the eccentric portion of the movement. So on the way out, he's controlling both the hip in a stable position and slowly lowering the feet to facilitate for eccentric control. Now let's dive into the second bucket or second category. This category, remember we said it's going to be knees fixed to train the hamstrings as hip extensors. This is one of my favorite exercises for the hamstrings. It's an RDL, but I do them slightly differently. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna prop your toes on about an 1 or 2 inch platform. It could be even a plate or whatever you find. And what I want you to do is keep the knee angle exactly the same as you lower down to the bottom of the movement. And you're gonna keep the dumbbells away from your body, as opposed to how you do a conventional deadlift when you're keeping the bar really close to you. I want the dumbbells to be farther away from you at the level of your shoe toe box, so that you can feel your hamstrings more and get a better stretch. Another thing that I like to add is doing the lowering portion slowly and then taking an extra 2-second pause at the bottom and then coming up. Yep. I think an issue that a lot of people run into when they do RDLs or any sort of deadlift or hamstring focused accessory exercise is that they're unable to feel their hamstring contracting through the entire range of motion. And I found that whenever I introduce this variation to those people, they have a lot of success and can really feel their hamstring throughout the entire movement. The second exercise we're gonna cover from this bucket category is gonna be a good morning. But I'm gonna teach you a different style of good morning that I prefer doing because it's a little bit more friendly and it's a little bit more accessible to most people. Now, in your traditional good morning, you have a barbell behind your neck and you're gonna be bending forward. This position might be a little bit challenging and scary for some people. So I like this one a little bit better and personally for myself as well. So what you're gonna do, you grab a dumbbell or whatever heavy object you have access to, you're gonna put it in front of you. I want you to have a stance that's wider than your hips. Point your toes out or in, whatever feels more comfortable. And just try to keep your knees fixed again. And the whole most of the motion is gonna be coming from your hips. I want you to keep your back nice and flat or neutral and try to feel the movement or the contraction on your hamstrings apart in the back of your leg. All right, we're finally reaching the end of this video. We're gonna talk about the final category of hamstring exercises. For this one, we're gonna train the hamstrings as both knee flexors and hip extensors at the same time. So this is gonna be your most advanced movement from the ones that we've been talking about and the most challenging one as well. This is a little bit of a twist to your traditional Nordic hamstring exercise because in the Nordic hamstring curl, your hips are gonna be extended. For the razor hamstring curl, your hips are gonna be fixed in a flexed position. So you're gonna try to maintain that fixed hip angle throughout the entire range of motion as you lower yourself down slowly into the ground, reach, touch, and then come back up. That's perfect. If that's too difficult for you, you can always use your hands. Try that one too. Use your hands. So keep them there, and then you're gonna push yourself off the ground when you're, and then let yourself go, and then push. Yeah, there you go. So you can use your hands to assist yourself in that movement, both on the way down if you don't have full control through the entire motion, and also on the way up if you need a little bit extra assistance. Okay, so remember, if you want to maximize your gains in your deadlift and in your squat, and you want to build a well-rounded physique or well-rounded lower body physique, it's important that you consider the different portions of the hamstrings and how to attack those portions effectively and appropriately. So by including a combination of all of these exercises that target the different parts of the hamstrings, you'll ensure that your hamstrings develop fully from both an aesthetic and a strength standpoint.
A huge thank you to Dr. Cohen for walking me through these exercises. I know I definitely learned something here. Hopefully you did too. If you want to learn more, we're going to drop a link down below to the article. And obviously, if you want to follow Stefi, find her on Instagram at Stefi Cohen or visit hybridperformancemethod.com.
So for this one, your hips are going to be fixed in a flexed position, and you're going to lower your body slowly, trying to maintain that flexed hip angle all the way till you touch the floor with your forehead or your chin.
Mother